In the province of Natsukawa, surrounded by dense forests and towering mountains, there was an isolated village where time seemed to stand still. At night, the mist crept through the narrow streets like icy fingers, carrying tales of restless spirits. The villagers avoided going out after sunset, fearful of encountering an ONRYŌ, a vengeful spirit that haunted those who crossed its path. One such night, Akiko, the young wife of a farmer, walked under the moonlight through the forest. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and her hands clutched a charm, a desperate prayer to the gods. Her husband, Hiroshi, was on the brink of death, stricken by a mysterious illness that the village healers could not cure. Akiko, however, no longer prayed to the gods. She had heard rumors that someone, or something, in the forest could perform miracles, but at a terrible price. The wind howled through the trees, and the air grew heavier as she ventured deeper into the woods. Suddenly, distant, distorted laughter echoed among the trees, freezing Akiko in her tracks. A shadow formed before her, tall and sinuous, with eyes glowing like embers. "You called for me, mortal?" the figure whispered, its voice emanating from all directions. Akiko trembled but held her gaze firm. "If it's true you can save my husband, then name your price. I'll do anything." The shadow tilted its head, long black hair floating like smoke in the wind. "Anything?" it repeated, its voice laced with malice. "Be careful with the words you choose, mortal." Akiko was an ordinary woman, known for her kindness and devotion. Her love for Hiroshi was unwavering, and together they farmed rice on a small plot of land. But fate had been cruel. Hiroshi's illness not only weakened him, but also drained all their savings. Akiko had sold everything of value to pay the healers, but nothing worked. Now, her last hope lay in what many dismissed as superstition, an ONRYŌ. The spirit, however, was no mere legend. Her name was Ayaka, and her story was a whispered tale among the villagers. In life, she had been deceived by her fiancé and murdered on her wedding night. Since then, her soul had remained trapped in the mortal world, fueled by vengeance and the suffering of the living. Ayaka not only sought to punish betrayers, but also to test the boundaries of humanity, exposing the depths of moral choice. When Ayaka saw Akiko, she recognized the determination in her eyes, but also her vulnerability. The spirit smiled, a cold, sharp smile. "I can heal your husband," Ayaka said, "but in return, you must take the life of a child from the village. The blood of the innocent will seal the pact." Akiko was silent, her heart racing. What was she willing to sacrifice for her husband's life? Time seemed to stop as Akiko stared at Ayaka. The spirit's words thundered in her mind. To take a child's life, it was something she had never imagined considering. Yet, images of Hiroshi, pale and feverish, dominated her thoughts. What was more cruel, watching her husband die or condemning an innocent soul? "Who must I choose?" Akiko finally asked, her voice trembling but resolute. Ayaka let out a cruel laugh. "That is not for me to decide. You must choose your victim and fulfill the pact before dawn. If you fail, your husband will die, and I will take something even more precious from you." Akiko felt a chill run down her spine. Without another word, Ayaka vanished into the mist, leaving her alone in the darkness. Back in the village, Akiko wandered the empty streets, each door representing an impossible choice. She thought of Sayuri, the blacksmith's daughter, who always brought flowers for Hiroshi when he was ill. She thought of Haruto, an orphaned boy living with his grandmother. Each thought was a blow to her soul. She knew she could not bear the weight of such a monstrous act, but she also knew Hiroshi's time was running out. When she returned home, she found Hiroshi sleeping, his breathing labored. "I can't lose you," she whispered, holding his hand. Tears streamed down her face as she grappled with the price of saving his life. As dawn approached, Akiko still had not made her choice. She spent the night wandering the village, her anguish growing with each passing moment. Finally, she returned to the forest, hoping to confront Ayaka again. Perhaps she could plead for another price. "You return empty-handed," Ayaka said, appearing from the mist like a spectral shadow. Does this mean you've chosen to let your husband die? Akiko fell to her knees. I cannot do what you ask, but there must be another way. A way to pay for him without harming an innocent. Ayaka stepped closer, her eyes burning with intensity. Do you think the world is fair, Akiko? Do you believe love and kindness come without cost? Everything demands sacrifice, and you are on the brink of losing everything because of your weakness. Suddenly, Ayaka paused, looking at Akiko with curiosity. But perhaps you need not choose a child. Perhaps the debt can be paid another way. Akiko lifted her head, hope filling her eyes. What must I do? Ayaka smiled, but it was a treacherous smile. The pact can be fulfilled if you offer something of equal value. Your own life. The dilemma was cruel. Akiko knew Hiroshi could not survive without her, but the thought of taking a child's life was unbearable. Trembling, she finally stood, meeting Ayaka's gaze. I accept. Take my life, but save Hiroshi. Ayaka laughed, a shrill, terrifying sound. Interesting. You would sacrifice your soul for love. But tell me, Akiko, how will he live knowing your life was the price? Would you not condemn him to a life of guilt and sorrow? Akiko hesitated. Then what do you want from me? The spirit approached, her smile fading into a somber expression. I want you to know my pain, to understand what it means to lose everything. Choose, your life or that of a child. There is no other way. With a heavy heart, Akiko made her decision. She drew a knife and, before Ayaka could react, plunged it into her own chest. If my sacrifice is the only way to save Hiroshi, then I accept it. Ayaka watched in silence as Akiko collapsed, her blood staining the earth. For a moment, the forest was utterly still. Then, something unexpected happened. Ayaka began to cry. You did what I could never do, the spirit said, kneeling beside Akiko. I chose vengeance, and for that, I am bound to this world. But you chose love. Ayaka reached out, touching Akiko's forehead. Your sacrifice was true, therefore I will not take your life. The pain in Akiko's chest vanished, and she opened her eyes in surprise. Hiroshi, she murmured. He will live, Ayaka said, her form beginning to fade. But remember, Akiko, the true cost of love is bearing the weight of your choices. When Akiko returned home, she found Hiroshi healthy, as if the illness had never existed. She never told him about the pact, but every night, as she gazed at the forest, she felt Ayaka's presence, a reminder that love and sacrifice have the power to break even the darkest curses. Subscribe to the channel for more dark and touching stories like this one, and leave your thoughts in the comments about Akiko's choice.